Chapter 2. February 15th, 2030. Location classified. Eastern Seaboard, USA. 0542 hours.
"Fuck this place!"
spat Jessie. She looked up at me when I lifted an eyebrow to question her.
"What? You hate this place too, Dante? That's it. I'm signing my paperwork."
She shook her head fiercely, her white hair shimmering in the light. She was short, only 5'1" and maybe 100 pounds. Not your usual military personnel. Then again, we weren't in a normal branch of the military. We had both joined the Air Force and were in the same flight during basic military training. She kicked ass, leading the way in everything. She never let her size hold her back, especially when someone tried to talk down to her. She was a living wildfire, with a cute button nose to throw people off. "Jessie, we've only served 8 years. We have another year left on this station. Besides, it's just basic intel work. We stare at pictures all day of shit that doesn't change. Stars or sand, either way. No change from day to day. Let's just finish up the year and then do something different." She glared at me.
"Stars? They made you pick up the Horus project, didn't they? When will you start standing up for yourself? Anyway, it's not like we could do cool shit like your dad or great-granddad did."
"Yeah, I get it. Dad pulled the freaking future president from the Twin Towers. Great-granddad dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. They were involved in history. Yeah, they did cool shit, but they died from the effects. My family is always neck-deep in the shit, but that comes back to bite you in the ass. They both died of cancer. What it really is, though, is you're just pissed off because yesterday was Valentine's Day and you were stuck here." She punched me, nearly as hard as my dad would when we sparred. My arm knotted instantly and I started massaging it and swearing up a storm.
"Fuck you! Besides, I'm the only person that's allowed to pick on you. Who's in charge of that Charlie Foxtrot anyway?"
"Some dingbat named Turner. Haven't seen him around," I said offhand. I slid my keycard once the elevator stopped and the doors opened. Jessie glared one more time. Then she turned and walked briskly off. On my floor. Shit, on my floor. As in, to the Horus project. She wasn't cleared. She was working on another project a few floors down. I chased after her, still rubbing my sore arm. For such a small woman, she could move fast. Blast doors opened a little way ahead of her, silent despite their heft. Heads popped up from behind dividers as we passed offices and cubicles. I ignored them and tried to catch up. She rounded the corner and slammed through the door to the Horus Project Lab. I caught up a moment later and everything was in chaos. The lab hadn't even noticed our arrival. Several other officers were running around, arms full of binders or paper. The main screen showed a single image. It had a trajectory map across the Milky Way from a star roughly 90 light years away. We had been observing that star because it winked out without other changes a few years back. The trajectory was clearly of an object, but there was nothing in the shot. Literally nothing, because it cycled through every spectrum available and showed a gaping hole where something should have been. It shot out of the star system for several years, and then around 85 years ago, it had turned. I registered all of that in a single glance. "Oh, fuck." Jessie caught my tone and looked at me, then followed my gaze.
"Fuck."
She said it with dread, putting a lot of emphasis in. We both understood what that meant. Then someone noticed us. "DeWeiser, get to your desk. Revan, get out of here. You're not cleared." Jessie mutely nodded, turned, and left. I sat dumbly at my desk. Jessie quit by the end of the day. I went home and drank myself to sleep. That became a habit, knowing exactly what I was doing. Even worse, knowing I couldn't talk to anybody, even Jessie, about what I had seen. She later told me she started the separation paperwork the moment she sat at her desk. She encouraged me to follow suit. She had backing from some major organization and was starting her own company on the West Coast. Said she couldn't handle doing intel for the military anymore. I really should have followed her, but I stuck out that last year. It was miserable. Without her around, people kept piling work on my plate. She would regularly call to bother me about taking a job with her. Told me to file for voluntary separation due to hardship. I always told her I would finish up my term. She always ended the call by saying the job was waiting for me. By the end of the term, I had 6 different projects I was doing analysis for. I felt some malicious glee when I turned in my paperwork to my CO and he realized he had 6 major projects ongoing solely through me. The scramble was amazing to watch as I gathered my things before processing out. I called up Jessie and told her I was taking the job. Her response was simple.
Finally.
She had a plane ticket waiting in my email before I even got back to my house on base. She had movers there an hour after me. I was shocked by the speed. Then, I was packed up and moving to Washington State a few hours later. When I started my new job, I was dumbfounded. I did literally the exact same job, staring at images of deserts that were beamed down from satellite. It was mind-numbing, grueling work. She had opened a private sector business doing the exact same thing we had done in the military. However, there was one big difference. Not only was Jessie there as my boss, but the whole crew I worked with were kind, caring people. Work stopped being something I dreaded and became something I started to enjoy, because I was finally around something like family again.